Does Star Wars present all of its characters with flaws at the beginning of their series or movies? I think they do. I do. And I saw an article that was saying that Star Wars starts off their characters with one major character mistake. And this has been going on for the past 3 years, they say. But I think that they have more than one character flaw, and it's been going on for longer than 3 years. So, if you'll stick with me, we'll go through this and then I'll give you my thoughts and ideas and give you some of my ideas for what other character flaws I think these people have in the series and in the movies. So, let me pull up this article. So, it says Star Wars has kept making one crucial character mistake for the past 3 years. Star Wars is a growing universe, so there's bound to be occasional overlap. However, Lucasfilm keeps using one harmful trope on its main characters. And it says Star Wars has been consistently making one mistake with its characters for the last few years, and it may end up costing them in their upcoming titles. Recent Star Wars Disney Plus shows have been a resounding hit, with titles like The Mandalorian and Ahsoka introducing and reintroducing beloved characters that audience love to root for. These shows have given Star Wars a new feel, essentially showing off different stories outside the Skywalker family and the role of the Jedi Order in the galaxy. Within new Star Wars TV shows, audiences have seen less powerful protagonists, including individuals who do not have access to the Force. This meant finding new and creative ways for problems to be solved and new angles to view conflicts from. The storytelling of Star Wars has found a way to portray the inner turmoil of their characteristics physically, though it may now be overused. These stories have added another layer of storytelling to Star Wars, even if it may have created another issue for the franchise as it continues to move forward. And it says Star Wars has weakened its heroes in the past 3 years. Star Wars has shown since its beginning that while people with the Force are powerful, ordinary people are just as capable of leading and rebelling. However, the past few years, the main protagonists of Star Wars shows have been made to appear weaker than they have previously. For example, Din Djarin is exceptionally skilled and was able to best Moff Gideon in the Mandalorian Season 2 finale, showing just how powerful he really is. However, the Mandalorian Season 3 saw a stark decrease in Din Djarin's abilities. He was captured by a cyborg on Mandalore and by Moff Gideon's forces. It seems like a downgrade from where Din Djarin operated previously. The same happened to Boba Fett in the Book of Boba Fett. Fett was a legendary bounty hunter, and the show made Fett to be at the will of the people instead of leading Mos Espa in the confident way audiences have seen Boba Fett act before. Boba Fett was a formidable foe, and to see him take a backseat in his own show was very disheartening, especially considering what he's known to be capable of. The storytelling undermined Fett's character and made the Book of Boba Fett hard to watch. It's not just non-Force users who have been weakened in recent years either. Obi-Wan Kenobi was severely weakened in Obi-Wan Kenobi, as was Ahsoka Tano and Ahsoka. Obi-Wan was forced to confront Darth Vader in Obi-Wan Kenobi Season 3, and badly lost to his former apprentice, only barely being saved. Additionally, Ahsoka Tano was bested by Baylan Skoll once and almost bested a second time in Ahsoka's Season 1 finale. Obi-Wan and Ahsoka are two of the most powerful and well-trained Jedi of their time, so seeing them so easily beaten felt convenient for the plot. Physical strength doesn't have to be sacrificed to portray inner strength. In the cases of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ahsoka Tano, when they were losing their respective battles, they were also lacking inner strength. Only when they had found that inner strength were they able to meet their full potential. While this makes for good storytelling, this idea of needing to be mentally strong to be physically strong doesn't always need to correlate. If a character is physically strong, that shouldn't need to be sacrificed to continue to push the plot forward. In Star Wars, the Jedi's strength doesn't just come from their mental capabilities, but from their training as well. While being balanced in the Force is still important, it's not the only thing that matters. Additionally, for characters like Boba Fett and Din Djarin, having their strength diminished when they don't have access to the Force doesn't have the same effect. In fact, it calls into question the strength of these characters overall, which is also not fair to them and their accomplishments. Because characters like Din Djarin and Boba Fett are not Force sensitive, They don't have to worry about balance in the Force, which begs the question of why their strength diminished in the first place. Star Wars needs to stop physically weakening its heroes. Over the past 3 years, characters have constantly been physically weakened in order to push the plot forward, and this trend must stop so as not to further harm its characters. Moving forward, Star Wars needs to stop physically weakening its heroes in order to push the plot forward. Recently, the trope has been utilized too often, causing some aspects of certain characters to feel flat. One of the reasons why the Book of Boba Fett has been criticized was because the show portrayed a weak version of the titular character, and compared to Din Djarin at the time, he was far physically inferior. If the writers and creators had kept Boba Fett at his same physical capabilities, it would have heightened the stakes and ultimately made it more compelling for the audience. The same can go for Din Djarin, who in Jon Favreau's upcoming movie, The Mandalorian and Grogu, has to be back at full strength if the film is to land with audiences. Putting Din Djarin back at his full strength, as seen in The Mandalorian Seasons 1 and 2, is essential, especially since Din has reclaimed his Mandalorian title. Din being back at full strength will also help when he ultimately teams up with the other characters in the New Republic era in Dave Filoni's untitled Star Wars movie. With so many stories to tell, having similar storylines or falling into similar tropes was bound to happen in Star Wars. However, over the past 3 years, characters have constantly been physically weakened in order to push the plot forward, and this trend must stop so as not to further harm its characters. While this trope is okay in some instances, having it used for both Force-sensitive and non-Force-sensitive characters is awkward. Hopefully, characters like Din Djarin, Boba Fett, and Ahsoka Tano will find some kind of redemption in upcoming Star Wars titles. So, what do you think about that article? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I think it nails down some pretty good arguments about Din Djarin, Boba Fett, Ahsoka Tano. I think it should have expanded it more to the movies, like Luke in The Last Jedi and Rey, and basically every character that they had. Not only was Luke shown as weak, he was cut off from the Force, and it was basically what they did with Obi-Wan too. Obi-Wan cut himself off from the Force, and Ahsoka Tano at the very beginning of Ahsoka, she was like so withdrawn and weak, basically. Boba Fett was the man back in the movies. You know, he got knocked into the Sarlacc pit, but that was just, you know, him fighting in some kind of accident, you know, when Han Solo accidentally hit his backpack. But before that, man, he never had his helmet off. You knew something bad was going to happen every time he came on screen in The Empire Strikes Back. And it was he was so tough. There was like no chinks in his armor. Nothing bad was going to happen, and he was out for vengeance and doing his bounty hunter stuff. And I think in the Book of Boba Fett, they made him so soft that I think people were just disgusted and taken aback at how Boba Fett wasn't this tough bounty hunter guy, and he was basically a whipping boy for all the people of Mos Espa when he took over Jabba the Hutt's palace. I think with Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi, not only was he weak mentally, they made him weak physically, and his emotions were in so much turmoil that he had there was no chance for him to do anything at all. And then Princess Leia, she gets blasted out of the ship into deep space, laying there covered in crystals, ice crystals, and all of a sudden she just does this Mary Poppins impression, pulls herself back into the ship as a Jedi, and survives this total vacuum of space using the Force. And then she like fades away because her heart's broken over her son. she just pulled her mom's deal. Padme. Padme died because of a broken heart because of Darth Vader. So Princess Leia did the same thing. She died because of a broken heart for her son. And it's just so many. They gave so many weaknesses to everybody, not just appearing weaker. It was just mentally, physically, and so many people were so conflicted. Not only were they weak, but they were conflicted, and it's the same thing over and over and over again. And this article nails it. I agree that they do weaken them, and they nail all their points. But I have to add, my thoughts of, feeling conflicted, feeling angry. Luke he was angry. He was angry and disgusted and fed up, and that's not the Jedi way. You know, he was a Jedi, but he cut himself off from the Force, but he still kind of practiced his hermit lifestyle as like Yoda did. You know, if he was going to give up being a Jedi, why did he go to the very first temple of the Jedi in Ach-2? So he's contradicting himself. There's contradictions everywhere. And I agree with this article. They need to toughen up these people, make them strong like they were. Boba Fett from The Empire Strikes Back. He was bad. He was a bad man. And he didn't take nothing from nobody. He would talk back to Darth Vader. He didn't give a crap. He wanted to take Han Solo to Jabba the Hutt, and Darth Vader was going to use Han Solo as a guinea pig to test out the carbonite, and Boba Fett's like, I got money on this, Darth Vader. What's up with that, bro? And Darth Vader finally said, the Empire will pay you back if anything happens. But Boba Fett wasn't scared of anything. But then, he comes in this book of Boba Fett, and they make him a little wimpy little guy who has no backbone. So come on, you can't have both ways. And I agree with this article. And I should tell you, it's on screenrant.com if you want to read it. Just go back in the video and look at the title. Title's right there. You know what else might pique your interest? Check out this video. May the Force be with you always.